Cops, Central Organization. Police specialists. Fighting crime in a future time. Protecting Empire City from Big Boss and his gang of crooks. It's crime fighting time.
And there you have it. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Strictly Art Live number 79. And lo and behold, just as fate would have it, on this May 31st, it's early Saturday morning, 9 a.m., all the videos have just crashed. So I can't use none of them except for the side ones. The good news is that I actually have this special one right here you need to check out. All right. Stand by
Major
and
city
get ready.
in a place raised to honor Earth's past protectors. The world will again learn, sometimes, superpowered intrigue doesn't stop at the grave. Galaxy Memorial Park, Volume 1. Crowdfunding now on Fund My Comic.
And with that being said, welcome, Sir Levi, the
How's it going, Rob?
co-creator of Galaxy Memorial Park. How you doing this morning, sir?
Doing well. It is 9 a.m. your time, 6 a.m. my time.
Oh my gosh. Now I feel bad.
Don't worry about it, man, because my routine, I love my routine.
Nice.
I'm up at 4:30 every morning anyway. And by
Yeah.
5, me and the wife are usually at the gym. If you can't tell, I'm just this beautiful specimen, right? So yeah, we get time in it at the gym, and we're back home again. And I'm usually catching your show from like 6 to 7, right? And
Mhm.
usually when I'm typing in the chats, I've probably taken the laptop into the kitchen because my wife likes to have her breakfast at 7 before she goes to work at 7:30. So
Okay.
I'm usually cooking and stuff. Yeah.
Nice. And you
Yeah.
see that,
Yeah.
right? Getting up at 4 a.m., that's like what they say are the first traits of success.
Yes. Yes. Because yeah, you got. We were talking a little bit backstage about how hard this is and like the difficulties just do with me and JD, but let alone like yourself, like doing all the work yourself,
Yeah.
and it's like you have to be disciplined if you want to accomplish something.
Yeah. Yeah. No
Yeah.
doubt about it. With that being said, congratulations. Just like you said, on Memorial Day weekend, Galaxy Memorial Park is on Fund My Comic.
Thank you.
And
Yes.
it looks
Go ahead.
like it's on the way to being funded. And
As fast as yeah, I haven't checked it this morning, but it was at 89% last night.
oh,
Shit.
here.
Excuse my language. Sorry about that.
You're good.
Yeah,
There
right
we go.
on. We got we got another one.
93%. Yep. And that's yeah, I got 79 days to go too, man. That's plenty of time.
Yeah, yeah,
That
it's
is a excellent, excellent start. You know,
definitely.
and
We
again, oh, go ahead.
we simply wanted the notch on our belt for like, hey, having funded. You know,
Hmm.
our original goal was set at 500. I'm like, that's an easily obtainable goal. And Fund My Comic Book was actually in the process of setting up this campaign. They're like, you might want to, bump that up to 700 or at least 1,000. So we were
Yeah.
like, okay, we'll take the 700. We'll do that. So,
Hmm.
which is good because we're always shooting for more. I would definitely like to double the number we're asking for.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
mhm.
And this is your first launch on Fund My Comic.
Yes, yeah, my first crowdfunded comic book. Hmm.
Nice. So this is your first crowdfunded comic book, and this is also my first purchase or first pledge on Fund My Comic. So we got
Yeah.
history in the making. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, welcome to the club.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Fund My Comic,
Mhm.
I would not be in the position I'm in right now. There was so a little bit of history on me. I had 3 strokes, September 19th, 2017, and in my recovery process, they kind of goofed up on my physical therapy. And
Mhm.
so by Christmas time, I was back in the hospital again with a swollen brain. And they're like, yeah, we gave you the wrong
Mm.
PT. They're like, oh, thank you. And
Dang.
so they found, so the drug they give you for that is the migraine drug. And
Yeah.
it's 3 shots, right? And
Oh.
the second shot, he's like, it's going to feel like dancing ants on your brain. And the third shot is to take, because that's like an allergic reaction your brain has to it.
Yeah.
And it's like the third shot will counteract those ants, right? And sure enough, like it felt like ants were crawling all over my brain.
Oh my
But yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So we've quickly figured out that the artwork was good for me to do.
Okay.
So I had left the industry, quit looking for work in 2016,
Mhm.
and quit doing conventions, quit assisting people, quit. So I'd gotten out of the industry and just kind of quit and left, and because it didn't seem like I was fitting in too well.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, so now I got to get back into this. And we had a project that me and JD both loved, Galaxy Memorial Park, and the first chapter of it was already written. So because
Wow.
the concept of Galaxy Memorial, it's over 10 years old.
Hmm.
It started as a group project. We were thinking of an idea for a group of friends to get together and what could we all work on together if we're at a local convention, how can we bring by everybody to everybody's table? How can we spread the wealth, so to speak? And so we were like, we come up with the idea of Galaxy Memorial Park, where you have a frontline story that takes place in main time, and then you
Yeah.
tell a series of stories through flashbacks.
Okay.
And those flashbacks were supposed to be done by different artists. And so that way you would bring in your friends. You'd be like, okay, like you're going to take care of this flashback, and this flashback. And we grew this thing by asking them, like, okay, if you want to participate in this project, what is your absolute favorite thing to draw? Like if I had to like ask you to work for free,
Uh-huh.
what is the one thing where you're like, I got to draw this. And we would
Nice.
go, okay. One of them was the one that always sticks out in my head was this friend of ours, Jason. He's like, well, and it blew us away because I would want to draw Nick Fury and the Howling Commandos set in World War II.
Mhm.
And it was, wow, this guy had this real imagey style to him. And
Yeah.
we're like, okay, that's cool that he was into this war stuff. So we went back home and brainstormed a little bit, like, okay, who could have a memorial inside the park
Mhm.
that would. And he's like, so we came up with the Lost Platoon, right? And this
Okay.
was a World War II platoon that got sucked through a portal, and that they were always, their adventures would always start off with them being pushed into a conflict where they would just
Okay.
show up and we're in the middle of a battle,
Oh,
right?
love it.
And then the characters would have like you have the cookie cutter characters, like you'd have the one guy with the big machine gun guy, you got the grenade launcher guy, you got the the various characters and stuff, and we're like, okay, so sorry, I got a train coming by if you can hear it. Yeah. So each character would probably have like a weapon or a souvenir that they would bring home from all these different battles. So you would have maybe the one guy's carrying a laser gun now, maybe another guy's carrying a tomahawk, just stuff like that. So that's how we would entice our friends to like think about participating in this project. Yeah. And then years go by, and like I said, I left the industry. I have the strokes, and I need something to do for physical therapy. And we're like, well, how about Galaxy Memorial Park? And so I'm like, yeah, we can definitely do that. And so the first volume is just me taking care of the artwork. So all the flashbacks in volume 1 and all the mainline artwork is done by me. Okay. In volumes 2, 3, and 4, we have set up different artists. So we've gone back to the traditional sense of it. Okay. And the main reason that this happened was because of Fund My Comic. So we're probably 2019, 2020, we're working on the Bible of Galaxy Memorial Park. And so I'm doing a lot of character sketches. And if if you watch the Galaxy Memorial X page or the Instagram page, that's all work I was just doing, where I would go in and I'm like, you know what, I haven't played around in watercolor. So I would look at a concept we were working on, and then I would just do it in watercolor. So nice. As my physical therapy for the day. So so sorry about that.
No, sorry. Lots of memories, right?
Yeah. You're like, so basically around 2020, somewhere in there, we started getting like looking like, how can we do this? Where can we go? How do we get this out and stuff like that? Do we look at publishers? Do we look at, the various things? And the more we started kind of digging into things, and years go by, and it wasn't until, with my normal routine, by 6 a.m., I'm usually watching Glenn Beck. I was one of the original Blaze subscribers back in 2012. I left cable television, haven't paid for cable since 2012, and I've done nothing but digital online streaming. So I'm watching Glenn Beck, and he talks about this $1 million campaign, for comic books. And I'm like, what is this? Like, who is this Rippaverse thing? Who is Eric July? What's going on here? Holy cow, that's a lot of money. I don't think my project would make that kind of money, but it made me start thinking of the crowdfunding scene again. And so I kind of dive back into it, and I see, the various people that are in there, like this time, everybody seems to be getting along fairly well, the different factions.
Oh yeah.
And everybody's having, when the 2020 money was rolling in.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, this is fairly possible. And then you start listening to things, and they're complaining about Indiegogo, and they're complaining about Kickstarter, and they're complaining about shadow banning. So you're like, I just got, like, in 2020, I got kicked off of Facebook. I've been chased around.
You too?
Yes, imagine that. My opinions. Yeah, like I would say stuff like, it's the flu. Yeah. And so after having been chased around the internet by the overlords, the first place you remember how, like, everybody got kicked off of Twitter, everybody kicked off of Facebook, and everybody ran to was it Parler? Was that the Amazon?
Yep. I was on Parler. Yep.
Yes. And then Amazon shut the servers down on that.
Yep.
And then
I remember that.
Everybody ran to Gab. Right. I still have a Gab account that I haven't used in years.
Yep.
And I'm like, some like Gab isn't really. And then I heard this thing called Telegram. And I'm like, oh wow. And I feel like I found my people again on Telegram.
Yeah. Talk about the rabbit hole.
Yes. And so in the process of that, being chased off everywhere and blacklisted and stuff. You're like, and shadow banned, and like, I just wasn't like Kickstarter, Indiegogo.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, I forget what I'm typing in, but it's probably something like crowdfunding comic books.
Mm-hmm.
And forgive me on the dates here, Luke, but I want to say
Mm-hmm.
Fund My Comic Book started up in April, let's just say. And I think I found them in like June,
Okay.
and there was barely anything on it.
Yeah.
There was some stuff, and I'm like, okay, here's another site. And then I go look up, like, who runs this place, and I find Luke Stone, and then I found, Nerd Bacon. And
Yeah.
then I heard Luke Stone's testimonial, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, you hear Luke Stone's story about surviving COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
hopefully that doesn't get us banned saying that word right now.
Nah, it
But
should be fine.
right.
Another
Um,
walk in the park.
right. So
Yeah.
um so I was like, wow, here's a site that isn't doing that to people. So it
Yeah.
was just, I seen everything kind of line up for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Jay, I think we could do this. I think we can not only work on this story, which we were already working on and looking for a place to put it. I'm like, I think we have we have found the place to put it.
Yeah.
So that is why we're at Fund My Comic Book exclusively.
Nice.
And it's one of those things where, JD has a job.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing fine. I'm married to my beautiful wife for 30 years.
Nice.
Um, we
Mm-hmm.
I'd say this a lot. We're in a unique position to where, like, we don't need to make our money back. And I probably shouldn't say that as I'm trying to sell things, but
Mm-hmm.
it's like, we're not here to make $1,000,000. We're
Yeah.
here to tell this story, and we want people to read this story because this story has meaning. This story has it's about honor, duty, sacrifice. It
Mm-hmm.
is everything we. It's a love letter to an industry that's gone wrong,
Yeah.
and this is even the cover itself, with it being a homage to John Byrne, Days of Future Past, where it's
Mm-hmm.
all four of our covers are going to be homages because it's, like I said, it's a love letter to this industry. So
Yeah.
I I said it on another stream one time, and this is the you went to a kegger back in high school, and the lead cheerleader got drunk, and she
Mm-hmm.
made out with you, and then on Monday she had nothing to do with you.
Yep.
It's kind of like, you needed me just a minute ago. you
Right.
know
She's sitting up straight in class, looking straight forward.
yep, yep. And you're just kind of like, wow, we had a thing for a second.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we went through, and going back to the, as we're working on this thing, only had the first chapter done.
Mm-hmm.
Jay wrote 13 more chapters. He spent a year and a half writing this series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even at that time, we go back to, we didn't have a place for this. He was simply being a good friend and giving me something to do during the day.
Beautiful. Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of the. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say that journey I can relate to so much because when launching something, you do want things to go well and you want to mitigate the most amount of negative variables that you can. Like the Indiegogo thing. I think I attempted to launch my first comic on Kickstarter, which didn't fund because I knew nothing about campaigning. And then I just stuck to print on demand. I've been doing that for
Right.
years. But Indiegogo was looking good, and then yeah, I started hearing that same term, shadow banning. I actually
Yeah.
made a damn video, like a video to make fun of the whole shadow banning thing. But yeah, the fact that out of that kind of conflict and those lockdowns that we get, is fortunate that someone steps up and says, "Hey, look, this isn't fair. What's going on? Let's put something together and have a place that people can come to. Let's have a cheers,
Yeah.
where everybody knows your name." And
Yeah.
that growth is so important. And from what I've seen so far and from my comic, it's a great idea. It's plenty of room for expansion, and to have that exclusive, site here, more people will learn about it. Like I had mentioned to you, I bought more than one copy of this book. I wanted to get several because you're over on, I don't, what do they call your neck of the woods? I'm on the East Coast, and I know there's a West Coast, but where do they call your neck of the woods?
The Pacific Northwest, or more
Okay.
precisely, I am in the Inland Empire.
Inland Empire. See, I never
Inland Empire. Yes.
I
Yes.
learned something new today. But
Hmm.
yeah, I thought it would be a great idea, to have, at least a copy for myself and enjoy it, but also try get some copies and then start sending to like local libraries around here, and some comic shops where maybe the people that work there don't look so depressed, you know. But something
Right.
fresh, something new, something worth giving a chance to and reading about, because from what you've told me on a couple occasions where we talked about this book, it has history related to things that you went through in life, scenarios that I think really fit in as a great puzzle piece to this story from reading the
Yes.
Ashcan.
Yeah. Chapter one actually happened to me. That was I was grandpa in the park and I lost my daughter. You
Mm,
know, and it was we were at a family function, a family
mhm.
reunion,
Yeah.
big park, and two kids, and Gwendolyn was 3 at the time, and she's playing with her cousins, and we have no idea that the cousins want to go look at the fountain, which is a half mile across the park, and they come back and she didn't,
Oh
and
man.
yes, and at that point in time, that was one of my first times I was like, I need to quit smoking because I took off, and
Mhm.
when I had to stop, it about broke my heart,
Yeah.
so yeah, it did happen to me.
Mhm.
And that's kind of, so we wrote that into the story, where I'm like, okay, you know with me and Jay, we work really well together. I'll come up with beats to the song, and I'm like, it'll have this and this in it,
Oh,
and then
really? Okay.
and I hand it to him, and he just comes back with this concept of like, oh wow, that's really freaking great.
Yeah.
And we don't we're probably one of those couples that don't fight, because we always tend to give each other what they want,
Yeah.
and there's been many times where I've said, well, I think this should happen, and Jay's like, okay, and Jay said, like, I don't think this would happen. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and there's no fighting over it.
And
So
that's that synergy of creative ideas, the
yeah.
brainstorming. That's what I enjoy. I don't get much
Yes.
exposure of that. So it's good to hear.
Yeah. So so part of the concept is on Galaxy Memorial Park is if I always explain it with Peter Parker. If Peter Parker passed away,
Mm,
he would want Mary Jane to be able to visit his gravesite without being harassed by the Green Goblin.
mm,
So how do we take care of that?
mhm.
We're like, okay, well, the park defends itself. The park shall know you by your fruits.
Wow.
So little tiny concepts in there where we steal from, like Demolition Man, where they had the anti-graffiti,
Yeah.
where somebody wrote graffiti on the thing, and the thing pops out of the ground or wipes it
Yeah.
off. We're like that is in the park.
Genius.
So we're like, okay, so the park defends itself, like, so no evil shall happen in the park.
Mm,
And so just the fact that Michael has that Grandpa has Michael went missing is your first indication that something is definitely wrong in this park, because even that shouldn't happen.
right.
So yeah, that's how we wove in my trauma, into the story of like losing your kid in the park. Like, oh my
Yeah.
god, you know. So, and we talk about. I'm gonna shut this
Mhm.
window. We got another
No
train.
problem. Yeah, I know as a
I live right next to the intersection.
yeah, That can
So
be a killer.
yeah. So okay, lost the kid.
Mhm. I
Oh
know
boy.
you as a parent,
Um,
that cuts on like survival instincts and protective instincts immediately, you know.
it does. Yeah. Yes, definitely. Because it would, like I said, it scares the hell out of
Mhm.
you. And so Grandpa loses the kid, and we've had enough time on this project to where Jay would, because I'm homebound pretty much. They recommend I don't do a lot of things, right? So I pretty much stick around my house, and Jay would come over and we would brainstorm on things.
Mhm.
And one of the things is so we have a large catalog of characters that we've simply killed off, but
Ooh.
we gave them backstories. We know the history on these characters
Mhm.
because part of the feel of this book we want is when you read these flashbacks, we want you to feel like this is the official guide to the Marvel Universe handbook, where you're given clips of these characters' backstories, and then you're given a story, and we want to know that entire story before we off these characters, or we put them in the memorial, or we use them that they're still alive.
Yeah.
So we would go through and like Grandpa's backstory is uh, as you see, he's an ex
Yeah.
superhero, and
Young rash man.
he had a yes. Jay refers to him as our Tom Cruise, right? It's Tom Cruise and Top Gun.
Nice. Yep.
That is Grandpa.
Mhm.
So Grandpa has a son. That son ends up, he's a superhero as well. Follows him in the line, and son ends up married with children, and then the son passes away in the conflict.
Okay.
And so now Grandpa, who is retired, has a daughter-in-law who really doesn't want her kids to follow in the
Okay.
footsteps. So not only is it kind of like the park where I lose my daughter, but we're kind of adding in that traditional military family, of like he served, he served, he served, he served, and then all of a sudden there's that break in there. We're like, man, this family it's cost us too
Yeah.
much, So Grandpa on his way to Grandpa's not even supposed to have the grandkids at the park,
Mm.
right? Because Mom doesn't want them there. Mom doesn't want them to follow in the footsteps of
Right.
superheroes. And so he's lost one of the kids in the park. That he's not supposed to be in with the
Mhm.
kids. And then on top of that, those grandkids have never seen him use his
Mm.
powers. So they're, so that's kind of like the scene at, like just this cover itself, where
Yeah.
it's like there's Grandpa as a young man, but there's the grandkids in the back, and they're actually seeing him use his
Yeah.
powers. So chapter 1 is very much like an ode to a military family, so to
Wow.
speak, as well.
Recently, I've been hearing more insight about how the Fantastic Four in its early stages emphasize on family so much, and how that is such an intricate aspect, and even how they try to recruit other people to join the family just wasn't to join the team. It just kind of wasn't the same, and you've added another layer to it: superheroes with superpowers, family, and then military aspects onto
Mhm.
it as well. And then a
Yes.
memorial on top of that. So it's like
Yeah.
so many layers of it. And that hook at the end of the preview where it says, superhero intrigue doesn't end just at the grave. And it's just like, wow.
Right. There. So just here recently, Real America's Voice on Monday, they had one of the reporters down there in Florida, and Florida's version of Arlington
Hmm.
Cemetery, and he was talking about stuff, and just as he walked up to the grave and he told this guy's story,
Hmm.
right, and I was like, fucking
Yeah.
awesome, man. And then he walked. Sorry about the
No,
language
that's
again.
fine. I mean, I
And
don't
then
care. I normally curse out YouTube and when they mess with me, so that's fine.
right. So the next grave that he goes to was what was the school shooting down in Florida with the one guy? He's in charge of the
Yeah,
DNC now.
yeah. It's got a weird name. I
Um,
forgot the daggone name of it. Um,
one of the
yeah, I'm not sure.
one of the one of the teachers that ran towards the sound of
Yeah.
gunfire, right, was a military
Wow.
veteran, and they're like, so he's like, he goes to this guy's grave, and he's like, this is so and so. He was the one school teacher that ran towards the bullets. You're just kind of like, just stuff like that where you're like, that's cool things. Like, these things have history, these things have stories.
Yeah, and that makes it way more relatable too. Going from human-based characters, and then based on the Ashcan that I got a chance to read, they've managed to fight some galactic threats in some of the flashbacks too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. One of the main characters in the story, if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you'll see a short character and a large character standing at a memorial. That is the memorial of Moon Maiden, and she's the main. She's one of the main characters of the story. Galaxy Memorial Park is basically her fault. She comes from a race of beings. She's an alien that's come to our world, and through the course of the story, okay, so her alien race has to be covered from head to toe, because if their flesh is seen by an outsider, it drives them
Oh man, yeah.
insane, and other things should happen. Other things
Mhm.
happen, like this is the one thing where me and Jay we're kind of because we don't actually show it. There's Moon Maiden ends up pregnant,
Mhm.
and that's one of the problems with them being seen is the once they are pregnant with another species, that baby becomes a super being. It comes out at the top evolutionary scale of its
Okay.
species. So basically, her race can create super
Yeah.
soldiers. So her race is a very sought after race, and it's constantly, they have to defend themselves. They can't be seen by off-worlders. They got to be completely badass in their defense, because they've had alien races attack them, wanting to build these super beings or these super
Right.
armies.
They're like the golden goose.
So
Mm.
yes, so she ends up pregnant with a super being, and so in the origins of building this story, one of the things that always popped out to me in, like, especially X-Men, a lot of the stories will happen in Central Park. Secret Wars, it happened, that thing came down inside Central Park, and it was such a location for that universe that I'm like, how come nothing ever happens to the park?
Right.
I'm like, that was the first catalyst of, like, well, shit, maybe something should happen to the park.
Exactly.
Let's blow it up. So in the process of Moon Maiden getting pregnant, she gives birth inside the park, the original park, and that the birth of that child with cosmic powers
Wow.
destroyed the park, destroyed half the city, and killed everybody in the process, because there was a major fight happening inside the park at that time over Moon Maiden and this birth. So a lot of the superheroes were there, and only 3 people survived. So
Wow.
so you're now 10 years later. The park has been rebuilt as a memorial to everybody that passed there, and and other characters that have passed since then. It's an honor to be buried at Memorial
Yeah.
Park. Yeah. So part of the deal was in the during that event, when Moon Maiden dies or gives birth, the park explodes, and think of it like Manhattan, in Central Park. That's basically what I've always envisioned. Even though we don't say Manhattan in Central Park. So we have the park inside the city. Well, that explosion because you have superheroes involved, there was the one superhero that kind of basically, like, let's just say the Green Lantern of the thing, where he forms a cone and causes most of the explosion to go one way, and possibly saving tons of people, but dying himself. So a lot of the explosion heads out to the bay. So the water got pushed away, and is now rushing back.
Oh man!
And one of the things that survives the explosion is a character we call Pop Rivet. He's basically a really old Iron Man that he's built everything in the universe, and he has built this system we call the AI-5 robot, which is like an ode to Voltron, right? Where it's all these different form into a robot. And AI-5 was developed for a friend who just loved to draw Transformers.
Wow.
So we're like, okay, we will make a Transformer for you. And so Pop's, the AI-5 robot has to go into save mode, and the bigger it accumulates parts and to make itself bigger, but the bigger it gets, the slower it gets, because the AI has problems controlling all those parts. And in the process of the tsunami coming back to wipe out the rest of the city again, it drags all these parts together and makes itself really huge to the point where it creates a dam or a levee to save the rest of the city. And in the process of doing that, it becomes so large that it falls asleep. So on one side of the park, as it's been rebuilt, you have the AI-5 robot that is the levee holding back the ocean. And on the other side of the park is the city, which has been rebuilt. Okay. So that is the physical look of Galaxy Memorial Park. So the AI-5 robot is pretty much has been used as a mainframe, let's say, just to help run the park. So yeah.
That's something else. So it already has, as you mentioned, a defense system built into it to protect it. That's, and you said his name is Pops Rivet.
Yeah, Pops Rivet. Yeah,
that is such a cool name, and just by the name alone,
it's Jay. Yeah, JD. He's really good at names. Yeah,
and that name is, I would have thought it was something related to amphibious, but he's a tinkerer, and that's pretty cool.
Yes. And when you get introduced to Pops in Volume 2, Pops has got dementia.
Oh man!
So he's at the end of his life, and he's struggling with dementia and stuff like that. So kind of going back to adding things in there that we all know. JD has dealt with dementia. There's another character in there that's got Parkinson's, which my uncle, so there's lots of things that we've thrown in there that came from real life.
Yeah, no, I remember from the ash can. I don't know if you want me to reveal too much of that, but there was one character in particular where he like irradiated energy, and it would affect people around him as well. And for a time, like the teams couldn't tell whether he was friend or foe. He just, and one of the
Half-Lifer.
Yep. So it was just like, damn. I mean, like he's trying to help people, and then he gets rid of the threat, and then he just rolls out.
Yeah, very, very much our space Incredible Hulk, so to speak. That kind of had that wandering feel to him, where he just wasn't accepted and usually fought on the side of good, even though you were a little leery of his power.
See, now when I read the book and I see him, I'm going to think of I'm going to cue The Lonely Man.
Yeah. Yes, walking down the highway at the end of the show. Yeah. Going back to the defense of the park, we have a character called the Greensman, and he's our plant guy, right? Okay. Like everybody needs a poison ivy, right? So and we have a section of the park. I've basically been saying the redeemables. but or Jay has been referring to it as the Secret Garden. Growing up, my mom read me The Secret Garden like at least twice. I've seen the movies. Part of the soundtrack played at her funeral.
Mm-hmm.
So The Secret Garden with us is pretty important too. And so this is where in the conflicts you would have people like Magneto would show up and fight on the side of the X-Men to battle Onslaught,
right?
So if they died in that process, they've shown some form of being redeemable, right? So we're like, they deserve a spot inside the park. So there are quote unquote villains inside that have been buried inside the park, and one of the villains that we have that's not buried in the park is the Greensman. So not only do we have this purposeful, mechanical essence of defending the park, but we now have he's been driven insane and mute basically because when the park exploded, he heard the sounds of a trillion life forms dying in his brain basically because he heard all the grass die, he heard the plants die, he heard. So, and not only that, he lost his wife in the explosion. So he just wanders the park as the Greensman.
Wow.
Right. So he's been part of the process of like, hey, this section of the park needs, he just goes over and takes care of the plants.
And it's interesting. He plays like a double role. He has those powers. He's gone through those conflicts. He's hypersensitive to nature, and he's almost like the landscape, the park keeper, or the park ranger, so to speak. So that's what I mean. Like with this book, these characters, you guys like made it a point to make sure each character was not one dimensional or two dimensional, that they had many complex layers in different times to it. That's amazing, man.
Yeah. It's been a labor of love. Like I go back to the love letter to an industry, So it was definitely one of those things like, okay, what would you have liked to have worked on? What kind of story would you have liked to have told, with the artists that we brought in? So it was, and now speaking of that, since the story is pretty much written, now we have the conflict of which artist fits the part.
Right.
We can't just go like, hey, you like drawing Transformers, we'll create this for you. It's already created.
Yeah, they're locked in now.
So now it's the difficulty of finding, the right artist for the right backstory. So
that'll be pretty interesting. And then in a way, since you have different artists doing each backstory, it's like a connected anthology. I don't know if that makes sense, but I've never heard of that. Yep. I've always heard of anthologies being separate, but it's connected by the base story that other artists have put together. I mean, hey, I'm a student. I'm learning.
Yeah.
Very, very cool, man. Very creative.
Part of the onion that put this thing together, one of the layers was a book. Before this book was at Image Comics, it was an indie book called Holy Crawlers. Common Grounds. They changed the name to Common Grounds when the book went to Image, and this book was part of the onion. It was, when I read the book, I'm like, holy cow, this is the anthology we need to do. The tying thing is all the stories took place at a coffee shop or donut shop for superheroes.
Wow.
So, and everything, all the grudges were not allowed. Yeah. Okay. So literally you had villains and superheroes in the same spot getting coffee and donuts.
It's like Switzerland.
And Switzerland. Yeah. Wow. So there was one scene in particular that kind of blew my mind was there was a scene in the bathroom where it's the hey, I'm out of toilet paper.
Oh, no.
Can you hand some under the wall? And as it turns out, you have two arch nemesis.
Oh gosh.
both in the bathroom at the same time. And all of a sudden it clicks on them like, hey, this is Captain So and so. Hey, this is evil so and
Yeah.
so. And they get to talking inside the bathroom.
Mhm.
And the villain is a little disappointed because this is his arch enemy.
Mhm.
And the superhero was like, I kind of always figured that this guy over here was my arch enemy, and you were just kind of a B level character type of a deal. Like the villain's all upset. Like, what do you mean I'm not your number one villain? You know? Yeah. So it was a great book, and Common Grounds. It was done like an anthology where it had three different stories all set at the donut
Mhm.
shop, and there was like one of them. The waitress at the end of the night gets robbed, and then he kidnaps the waitress and he's taking her away from the place, and she's basically tired of this guy, and she says to him like, what kind of a waitress do you think would work at this place? All right. And she turns on her superpowers and just gets rid of him.
Wow.
Like, okay, I'm done messing with you. Like, we don't hire normal people here. Even the waitresses have superpowers.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
so yeah, common grounds. It was, I think there was 4 issues of
Mhm.
it, but it was great.
Wow.
Yeah, and it had a star-studded. Once it made Image, it had a star-studded list of. My goodness, I'm blanking. I'm like, here's all the stars, and I can't think of a single one. But it was big names, even on the covers and
Mhm.
stuff. So yeah, that was part of the process of the thing, like a central location, different artists, all tying together with one main story that we could tell. And yeah, it's been a fun ride, and getting going back to the concept of finding the right artist for the story. Sometimes like Dio is publishing his book. It's called Tome of
Mhm.
Reckoning, and he posted a picture of Spider-Man battling the Rhino,
Okay.
and he said Spider-Man's my all-time favorite character. Basically, I would draw Spider-Man for free,
Nice.
and so I contacted him like, hey Dio, how do I have a character who's basically Spider Girl, and she's battling mob bosses inside of an Italian bar for 16 pages. Would you like to do it? I'll pay you. And he's like, oh hell yeah, I will do it. So yeah, it has been fun finding guys to fit the flashbacks and stuff.
Okay.
One
Yeah.
of the guys is Les Garner. Is We're eyeballing him for volume 3 in a
Mhm.
section because he does such great horror, uh, like a Bernie Wrightson type
Okay.
stuff. And we have this one flashback where we have a character that can reanimate the dead, but it comes at the cost of Pet Cemetery
Mm.
style.
Wow.
So there is one scene where he has had a flashback to the park. Basically, his worst fear
Mhm.
is the morning JD
Morning, JD.
is
Welcome.
so we have a flashback scene where it's just him in the park and like all the characters coming out of their graves at him. So it's our zombie flashback scene, and we're like, we need less to draw this page.
Nice. Hell.
So yeah,
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and play the trailer and also get
yes,
into some of the decisions of how you guys wanted to put this out. There's been many different options out there, but we'll talk about it when we come right back.
Major city,
okay,
in a place raised to honor Earth's past protectors, the world will again learn sometimes superpowered intrigue doesn't stop at the grave. Galaxy Memorial Park, Volume 1. Crowdfunding now on Fund My Comic.
Man, I mean, I don't know what it is about that thing. That thing gives me chills. It's just like,
JD's voice.
yeah, and like all the aspects and like the different things that the heroes and villains went through. It's like you said, it is
Hmm.
a love letter. It's like the Marvel story that I never got. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the feeling that I got from it. And
Hmm.
another reason why I thought this was, normally I'm an easy sell. You know what I mean? If something makes sense, it vibes with me. I get the concept. You know, most of the basic stuff is the line. You got me. I go to the gym. I
Hmm.
talked to a guy selling a gym membership. He ain't got to show me much. I already came there
Yeah.
to buy it. So
Right.
one of the things from 2022, I shifted from, because I backed a lot of comics on Indiegogo, some I still don't have. So I made it a point. Um, I stopped backing books on Indiegogo, and I said, look, if I'm going to start getting books, I'm going to have to be very particular about it and make sure that they're predominantly already done. And I think,
Yeah.
for, professionals, you worked in the industry, amongst other professionals, I think on the indie scene, I think that's the best way to go, to show to show others that you're serious about it. You know what I mean? Um, Back when, things were fun and, CG was booming and all that, you had, hey, here's the artwork. We know they've done it. You know, let's go ahead and throw our money together. And I think, unfortunately, that you can't expect everybody to keep their word. I'll put it that way.
No.
I think
Yeah.
I think we got another guest in the back, Mr.
Yeah.
Shadowhawk.
Nice.
I don't think I met Shadowhawk yet. Welcome, welcome.
Let's go, Shadow.
He's living up to the name.
Shadow. Yes. So speaking of the artwork, so volume one is done.
Hmm.
Volume two, all the artwork is complete, and it needs to be lettered and gray
Hmm.
toned. Volume three, uh, so each volume is 72 pages or three chapters. And volume three, chapter one has been penciled, chapter two has been penciled. I haven't penciled chapter three
Hmm.
yet, and I just started the process of inking chapter one in volume three.
Okay.
So yeah, the book, that was one of the things that we've seen. That was the big complaint, like un books
Yeah.
unfulfilled, right? And that's the biggest thing. We're like, no, we can't do this to people. We don't feel right
Right.
about it. Number one, and then because of the way my strokes hit me and blew out my
Mm.
vestibular, the vestibular runs on it's the nerve that does fight or flight.
Hmm.
So you deal with a lot of anxiety and stuff like that. And so the anxiety of having a project hanging over our head of like, I owe these people
Yeah.
money, did not sound enticing to
Right.
me, you
Yeah.
know. So I'd rather have the project done,
Agreed.
or mostly
Yeah,
done.
that's how I felt as well.
Mm.
Galaxy Memorial Park said GMP is the Marvel story that used to be offered regularly back in the day, the ones that won me over and then just went away. He's also a poet. Said, hey,
Yes,
Shadow.
yeah.
And that's the thing.
JD's good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm learning. And that's one of the things that granted, I don't have as much time as I used to read comics, but I'll chop through it, with the time that I do have. But when I do sit down and enjoy a comic, or at least want to make sure I have it, to enjoy, or just when I have that free time and just think, oh man, I would love to read so and so, I don't have it yet. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So I think there has to be a point of growth, just like we've seen what happened with Diamond. They dominated the market, and then they chose to shut down the market. And then what did that do? that created competition and growth in other areas. So the market is constantly changing, while the methods to put out things that people want, remains the same. I think it's definitely important for us to keep an eye on that, and try to give people what they want. Like you said, you listen to what people, their feedback. Shadow.
Shadow Hawk. I thought I heard birds.
Yeah, I did too. Must be Shadow Bird.
Shadow.
There he goes again. Ladies and gentlemen,
I think Shadow.
straight.
Yes, Shadow Hawk was the.
Uh huh.
Go
No,
ahead,
you
man.
got it.
Shadow Hawk was the 5th backer on this series.
Wow. See,
Mm-hmm.
see. I wanted to be number one, but I had to wait till payday. I was like, oh, you know,
No.
and that I like the crowdfunding aspect. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it. You know, um, this right here, seeing this progress, hearing the story that you've explained, that both you, JD, um, and the other artists have gone through to put together these characters, that offering that opportunity for artists, hey, if you want to draw, a story, or what kind of character would you make, and offering that's a rare opportunity. And then to have it move forward, knowing that idea, that concept got put into fruition and is buried at the Galaxy Memorial Park. That's something else, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Oh,
because it started.
hmm
It started as a group project, and just wanting to get my friends involved and have us all just, you know, um, get published together. That's kind of always been. I hear that bird again.
yeah.
Shadow, shadow,
No one knows
shadow.
what the
Well,
shadow
can you guys
is.
hear me?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, shadow.
welcome, sir.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's going on,
All
man?
right.
Not much, man. I just wanted to jump in and say congrats, Levi. Fucking great to see that Galaxy Memorial Park is out. I backed the first day and looking forward to it, man. Fucking been waiting for this for a year.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
yeah. For anyone that's watching, the links in the chat is pinned. It's on the crawler at the bottom. You can go right to it. This is the website on Fund My Comic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Shadowhawk. I
Cool,
think
cool.
it's the first chance I had the pleasure of chatting with you. So I'm excited to see what you have coming up the pipe too.
Yeah. I'm working on my own project now. Putting everything together. I'm finalizing the final design of the character. Um,
Okay.
stories already written. It's just gonna be a small ashcan intro. Uh,
hmm
but I've got some really talented artists that I'm friends with that are helping me out, and my writing won't suck too harshly.
Well, we all got to start somewhere, I got a book that's print on demand in the shop that no matter how many times I would probably advertise it, people are like, "Huh, it's anime." No, and
Mm.
that's fine. It's a learning
Yeah,
curve, so it's part of
yeah. Sorry
what
about
helps
that,
us
dude.
grow.
I'm probably one of those guys because I just never got
Yeah,
into the whole anime like look, the big eyes and the pointy chins and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Uh,
Oh yeah.
Speaking of anime, my daughter is she graduated from college about a week ago, and she is on
Congrats.
her study.
hmm
Thank you. Her study abroad
hmm
trip to
Oh
Japan,
man,
and
that's a
oh no
dream.
shit, dude. Yeah,
one of
my
the things
oh,
one of the things she's going to pictures is she's going to an anime amusement park. Does that
Oh yeah, 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 they
Yeah,
got those out there. Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Because like in
it
a
was.
Yeah,
way, anime for Japan is it's like their Disney, but
Yeah,
it's much broader.
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
My
that's
oldest daughter got her bachelor's degree in art. Those of you that are familiar with my channel have seen some of her stuff. She actually designed my logo and everything that I use. Um,
okay. Nice.
Very cool.
and that's one of the things she wants to do as well. Is she wants to take a trip to Japan. So we're trying to save up for her. But man, it ain't cheap.
Oh
No,
yeah,
oh
no,
God,
not at
no,
all.
no. It was. I forget what the price was. It was like this is only a half a credit. Like, like,
Right. It should
like
be more
really?
than that with what you're paying.
Yeah, it should, yeah. For what I'm paying, like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
she's been all over that island in getting. We have them proof of not proof of concept, but proof of life photos. Like when she gets up, she's got to send us a photo. Like
Right.
okay, proof of life, all right, and then she'll send us the photos of like what she's done. And like part of the trip was a 20-mile bike ride.
Wow.
You know, you're just kind of like,
Mhm.
oh my goodness, you're gonna come back in shape. She's got blisters on her feet, and
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, it's good to get exposure to other cultures. Um,
hmm
I only get a chance to leave the country for Uncle Sam, but it was pretty good cultural exchange, learning some new things. At
right.
first, I was scared to leave the base. I was like, nope, I'm not leaving. But it came out of my shell, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. Uh, JD
Uh,
said, "That's cool. Your daughter did a great job with your logo shadow." Yeah, I
Oh,
have to check that
thank
out.
you very much.
yeah, I agree. Hmm
All right, guys.
Excellent. So,
Yeah, Restream does not work too well with my phone, so I'm gonna head and drop out. I just really wanted to say congrats, Levi, and I mean, shoot for the moon, brother.
All right, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good one.
thanks for stopping
All
by,
right,
Shadow. Nice meeting
take
you.
it easy, man.
Bye, bud.
Later.
All right. So I mean, basically, we covered a whole hour, man. So let me know if
Hmm
you got any closing thoughts, any aspirations
Uh,
for the future, which I think you kind of broke down already.
yes. So, uh, thank you for having me on. Thank you for boosting out this project.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
one of the things I kept a note on that I wanted to talk to you about was
Hmm.
favorite Star Trek captain.
My favorite Star Trek captain.
Your favorite captain. So if it'll help, I have a my list is a little bit weird, I think, because I have two favorite captains that aren't
Mhm.
really favorite people's favorites. In
Okay.
my in order, I would go Captain Kirk because he's the OG.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then I go with then my next two are the weird ones where everybody puts them always last. It seems like is Archer and then Janeway, and it's simply
Okay.
because it's the concept of the show to me of
Yeah.
being out there without the large armada to back
Right.
you up, you know.
Right.
And then it comes down to after that it's Picard and then Cisco, and the only reason Cisco comes in fifth is because it's the concept of the show. It was uh, Deep Space Nine was more of the soap opera feel to it, or it was character development, and it was whatever
Mhm.
came out of the wormhole that week,
Yeah.
you know. And
Oh
then
yeah. 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 Constant
Picard was
travel and commerce.
yep, Picard was always the flagship of the Federation of this large conglomerate. They always
Yeah.
had backup ready. It seemed like so.
Yeah.
I was always I preferred the fly by the seat of your pants captains. Yeah.
you know, I yeah, it's tough for me to say that I have an absolute favorite because I got different
Mhm.
aspects of ones that I like, and plus the ones I was exposed to when I was a bit of a Trekkie growing up. Obviously, Kirk, he taught
Right.
me the combat role. You know, and then Picard specifically, and I know this is dirty, this is low down dirty shame, but I hold on to the Picard card anytime somebody wants to say Star Trek versus Star Wars, because that
Hmm.
Picard knew Q, and I know Q would wipe out all of Star Wars.
Right. Right.
So
That's
it's a
true.
terrible reason, but
Right.
um, and then I like Ben Cisco, but the problem to me is I think the actor, I believe his name is James. I can't remember his name. I was about to say Avery, but I remember him from
Isn't
Nighthawk, Spencer for Hire, that
isn't
show.
it Avery?
No, I'm
No.
thinking James Avery is Fresh Prince Uncle Phil.
Okay. Okay.
So I can't remember his name at the moment, but I liked his performance, but I know that's because of the actor,
Yeah.
more or
What
less of the captain. So
it, it doesn't have something to do with like if I know Picard had the classical training, and I want to say
mhm.
Cisco did as well because like he
Yeah,
was the best
yeah,
actor on the show.
yeah. I think he still does like theater as well. And
Right.
one of the last big times I heard him, at a like at a con or a gathering about
A-
Star Trek. Oh, that's his name.
Avery Brooks. Yeah.
Yes, Avery Brooks. Yeah. Um, uh, someone was asking him one of those, like those bait transgender questions,
Oh,
um,
right.
and he was like, "It's not about that the whole gender thing. It's about the role that the character had to play at the time."
Right.
And he just left it at that, and he just mic dropped the guy. So he was like, "That's that."
Yeah.
And it's tough for an actor to maintain that kind of frame and balance in this day and age because you can't please everybody.
You
So
yes. There's the yeah, it kind of makes you wonder like or makes you see the like where these actors go. Like what happened to so and so or well
right,
maybe because he had a really based,
hmm
way of thinking and man he just wasn't,
yeah,
you know, given the
right,
parts anymore.
yeah,
There's there's the one actor, he's always played a villain. He's got the white hair.
James
He's
Woods,
on is that is he on he's got the cowboy
John,
show?
huh?
He's got a new show here recently,
Oh,
and where he plays a cowboy, and
oh, I know who you're talking about. Um,
his
he was
his
the villain in Walking Tall. The Last Rodeo, Angel Studios.
he's a big part of Angel Studios. Yes,
Yeah, he's
um,
got the blue eyes, gray hair.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, and he's
yeah.
never had an online kiss until this series, and I
Wow.
didn't know that. I'm like, why does this guy always play the villain? How come? I liked his look. I'm like, certain aspects about him. Like, why doesn't he?
Right.
Then you find out, I was like, well, he's a Christian man, and
Mhm.
he explains it as if I walk into a room and like
Mhm.
my kids are watching this movie I'm in, and I walk into this room and I kill all these bad guys. He says that's fake. None of those people are dead. He says, but if I walk into a room and I kiss another woman that's not my wife, he says
Mhm.
that's real. That
Right.
actually happened.
Right. That's crossing
So
lines. Yeah.
yeah. So it was like, oh wow. So that's why he didn't receive parts. That's why he didn't, it was his faith and it was his belief system and
Right.
it was he gave an interview recently because in this new series that he's in, it was his first online kiss because they brought he's a if I get this wrong, I'm sorry, but he's a
Mhm.
widower in the series, and they do a flashback scene of him and his wife together. And he
Okay.
brought in because there was no speaking lines, he brought
Mhm.
in his real world wife and
Okay.
kissed her on screen for the very first time.
That's good. That's
Yeah, I was
good.
like, oh wow, that's freaking
Yeah.
cool. That's rewarded.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
Exactly. And I think to have that
Donahue,
again, huh?
Neil Donahue. Jay's over there correcting us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil
Yeah,
Donahue.
I wouldn't have gotten that at all.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thank you, JD said a smart actor knows how to handle the bait questions. Tom Cruise is good at that too. Correct.
Yeah. Yes.
Very much so. Yeah. Again, Angel Studios, um, a answer out of the conflict with Hollywood,
Yes.
and they're growing. And then the way that they're doing their system is that you buy a ticket to pay it forward, not just buy a ticket for yourself. That's
Right.
innovative. That's different. You know, I remember getting seeing their ads like when they were first starting up. I didn't quite take the time to understand it. Shame on me because I think it's a very good investment.
Yeah. Yeah. When they first came out, I remember Glenn Beck was pushing them a lot on his show. Him and Pat would
Hmm.
talk about that constantly.
Yeah,
Whether or not it was that or the streaming service that they used that would automatically edited the shows that they watched.
yeah.
I'm like, that's another great concept too, because like I
Hmm.
said, I hadn't paid for cable since 2012, and it was seeing things like it's toxic masculinity. When that was pointed out to me, it completely ruined television. I'm like,
Right,
oh, right there, right there, right there. They treat the dad like crap, and they treat
right.
him like he's the stupid character on the show. The mom's always the smartest one. My wife's way
Yeah.
smarter, by the way. And 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 he's
Mhm.
just the big dummy, and you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's not always the case for every merge, and obviously the fact that they're putting that out into forms of media means
right,
that that concept's going to project onto people as well. Television programming, they don't call it that for no reason. But
right,
it is good to point out those things because like even the Cosby Show, once I heard about that, then I start remembering that, yeah, Felicia Rashard basically ran the place, even though he was a doctor. And if he didn't do right by her, he wasn't getting his papaya, all that.
there you go. Yep, yeah.
So, yeah,
And
it's something else.
it's hard raising kids in a society like that without them being able to see
Oh yeah,
people that they can look up to. You
right,
know, I thought for the longest time that Disney was a great channel.
right.
And then my daughter was a fan of Hannah Montana, and she had a
Oh
little
yeah,
little cheap guitar and stuff, and we're
yeah.
like, yeah, she's watching Disney, Hannah Montana. It's kind of wholesome, and then Miley Cyrus hits with the whole
Mm,
bong situation.
right.
And I'm like, okay, that's it. No longer a role model.
Yeah.
And I stupidly switched over to the new young girl, Taylor Swift.
Oh yeah.
And I just like, oh, she's kind of a good role model. She's this young country girl and blankety
Mhm.
blank. And yeah, my daughter's a Swiftie. Yeah.
It's interesting too with some of the entertainers. They start off with the innocent love stories or a positive message. And then, like, for the women, they go into the bad girl routine. And then for the guys, it's I sold my soul to the devil, like over and over and over. It's like,
Yes.
goodness gracious.
Yes.
You know, it's hard to have a stake in it, give them a chance once you see that routine happen so much.
Yeah. Hey, so that one right, yeah, that one right there. Going
Uh huh.
back to that was one of those ones when once I found out that Disney had blocked that movie and did not want to produce it and put it out, Freedom, Sound of Freedom.
Hmm.
That was the final straw with me and Disney. I'm like, are
Oh,
you are
yeah.
you are you effing kidding me?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
you
crazy.
realize it's not Disney-ish, but
Right.
this is and that individual, once I put the pieces together, I'm like, wait a minute. I've heard this guy on Glenn Beck for years, you know,
Right.
and he would come on and he would talk about things like this. I'm like, wait a minute, this is the same guy, and now we're hearing his real life story, you
Hmm.
know. And then once you travel down those rabbit holes and things that end up in your algorithm, I ended up hearing the story of the one man who's there's the one scene in there where they're on the island at the end, and that one guy wanders off and he sees a child that the individual that stops that interaction.
Hmm.
I seen his testimonial, and it was kind of like just to see him and the way he changed his life around. You're like, my goodness, he was put in that spot for a reason, for
Yeah.
probably that exact moment.
Right.
And I'm just kind of like
Exactly.
all these great things that were in that movie such an
Hmm.
evil, thing that was happening. It's like Disney, how could you disappointment, you
The
know?
Pinocchio one blew my mind because I
Oh,
watched that movie as a kid so many times, and I
yes.
never remembered that part with the guy that was talking about the island.
It was to me that was the scariest part of that movie. That scared the
Yeah,
crap out of me as a kid.
yeah. It almost basically had almost nothing to do with the story. You could have
Yeah.
thrown in any other plot to kidnap Pinocchio, but
Yes.
specifically an island where they don't come back as boys. That's
Yes.
crazy,
Yeah.
you know. But again, it helps that when we're pushed, and pressured, it helps that after a while we say enough is enough, and find ways and avenues to put our revenue and resources together to counteract that kind of stuff. Because like,
Mhm.
how much deeper into the 10th level of hell, a Ghostbusters movie that we didn't get a chance to see, but how much further are we going to make it down there, literally, with all this crazy stuff that's going on. God's children are not for sale. That resounded very deep with people. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to see Disney fight back against that just in Florida, I was like, wow, you guys are burning some bridges.
And my mom had always told me from a very young age, she's like, "You're the most stubborn child I've ever raised. You would cut your nose off just to spite your face." And I would be like, "What'd my nose do?" You know, the the line that was crossed with me years ago with like how stubbornness and not giving people my money was Marvel killing Captain America, and the
Oh
way
yeah.
they did it was just there's a scene in there. If you collect all the different books to read the whole dang story,
Oh,
there was
Secret
one in there.
Empire.
No, this was Secret Wars, the original, the not Secret Wars, the one where they killed Captain America, Iron Man versus Captain America, and
Oh, Civil War.
Civil War. Thank you so much. Yes,
Okay, yeah.
at
Mhm.
the end of Civil War, Captain America is in jail and he's being interviewed by a reporter. And one of the nasty things she asks him to prove that he's out of touch with society is, "Have you ever watched a YouTube video?" And I'm like, "Are oh, I see a red thing over here. Are we still live?"
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, good. I seen the red thing pop up, and
No,
so
it was a spammer.
oh, gotcha. Okay. So just the disrespect to Steve Rogers right there at the end, and then they shoot him. Like you disrespect him, you treat him like a dog, and then you drag him out in cuffs and just shoot him.
Yeah, that's
I
crazy.
felt just so disrespected, and I was like, "That's it. That's it. I'm never, I purchased since that time. I've purchased two Marvel comic books since then, and both of them were the first two issues where they brought him back years later. Through that
Hmm.
whole time bullet thing or something like that. And I'm like, you know what? This is stupid. I'm done with you altogether.
Right.
So you're not getting my money anymore, Marvel. Stop
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah. I mean, the closest thing to mainstream comics that I'll get from time to time now is like Spawn, and that's predominantly because of Britt Booth. You know,
Right?
and yeah, as far as like people have talked about, like, and it's kind of sad too, but people have talked about like Absolute Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman. Those don't even exist to me
Yeah.
because of like the stigma behind all the crap that they keep doing, because you never know at one point when are they going to come back. It's almost like dealing with this quote. Larry Zabisco used to say the NWO is only as stable as Randy Savage, so it was always ready to, pop off.
Oh man,
And
that the golden era of wrestling.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
classic
Yeah.
WCW.
Larry Zabisco on the mic. Yes.
Oh yeah, the living legend, you
Yeah.
know. And that's pretty much how Marvel is. And like, I'll sometimes talk to my coworkers. I got a couple nerds with me, and They haven't read comics in a while, and I'll be like, yeah, you know what happened to Superman's son? No, he's got a
No.
son. What happened? You know what happened to Flash? No, what happened? And I just go through
Yeah.
the list. You
Yeah.
know, it's one of them. We'll debate about stuff because our big debate is, whether Superman, James Gunn Superman is going to be any good. And I'm like, dude, just don't.
Yeah. I I love the fact that crypto's in it.
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
crypto fan, and I'm like, but and I get it, but
Hmm.
once you've kind of been red pilled, you kind of see through all the stuff that they throw out
Yeah,
there. You're like,
yeah,
that's just in there to sell it to the kids, to sell the toy, to
yeah.
you're kind of like, okay, what kind of message are you going to put in there with it? What kind of
Hmm.
yeah.
And out of that, I will say that it really has helped people to appreciate Henry Cavill more out of anything else. You know,
He yeah.
it took me about 50. I think I watched Man of Steel like 100 times. A buddy of mine, he like recorded it on Twitch, so he had it on standby. I could just watch it anytime I wanted. And at
Mm,
one point, I would watch it every night I got home from work. And I was like, man, this guy's really growing on me. And the rest is history. You know,
hmm
but it's a shame, and that's one.
I've seen.
Oh, good, you got it.
I was simply going to say I've seen one of the trailers where Lois Lane is
Oh
interviewing
my gosh,
Superman,
yeah.
and she's sitting there pushing the buttons, and Clark's sitting there getting upset.
Mm-mm-mm.
I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like Superman lets a woman push his buttons. Like, since when? I mean, he's supposed to be stoic and above
Right,
this. You know, so
Cavill may be the best Superman.
I don't
Yeah,
that and
yep.
Reeves. So
And that's the
yeah,
other thing too,
which is seen a lot.
huh?
Go ahead.
No, I was
You
gonna
go
say,
ahead.
that's the other thing too. Both of those characters for me merged together because there's a scene in Man of Steel where he's getting hit by the world engine, and it's hitting him with
Mm-hmm.
the waves, and he's gradually getting back up. And they show a side view of his face, and then they hit the 2/3 or 3/4 angle. And if you look at Henry Cavill's face, it almost looked like it shifts to freaking Christopher Reeves for a second. And I was like,
Mm.
did Zack Snyder do that on purpose? I was about to lose my mind in the theater,
Uh, right.
you
Right.
know? And yep, exactly. George Reeves. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
his son that's supposed to
Mhm.
be a newscaster in the movie. I'm like, bro, see,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, okay, so you had a son in there who's acting now,
right.
and you like, okay, whatever,
Don't gi-
whatever,
don't give
Hollywood.
people reasons to not like your movie. And it's just like,
Yes.
well, the Superman downhill slope for me was when, out of anything else, people love Guardians 3, 4. Um, that James Gunn did. To me, he made the biggest mistake, which was making Adam Warlock retarded. I was pissed. Like
Yeah.
out the break, I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Huh?" The
Right.
Guardians beat him at the opening
Right.
scene of the movie. He's running away like a scolded dog. I was like, "Oh man." So that it's tough, man. But that's one of the reasons why we're making our own stuff, because we know what we
Yes.
like, we know what we want to see, and we know there are other people out there that will want to read, and get um, enveloped into this world, such as Galaxy Memorial Park. On Fund My Comic
Mm-hmm.
today, back it.
Yes. Back it, please. Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a joy to be in this position where we've gone from kids to get a chance to enjoy really good stuff and know what good stuff
Mm-hmm.
is, and to be able to carry on a good tradition. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So I've thought of this a lot, or some. traveling back in time and talking to my younger self and telling them about all the cool things that are out, you know, and just like, hey, the Punisher, he's just not Dolph Lundgren on a motorbike with a skull on a knife, you know, the Daredevil series, the this and that, and Captain America. Oh my God, you've seen it twice in 24 hours, and then be like, but you know, and just have my younger self go, no, it can't be like you have all this wonderful stuff. I'm like, yeah, but you know, like how could you not like all this stuff? And like because you know,
It's
you're like, wow,
it's almost like you got to start it off with Cap sitting down, putting the chair in front of the camera. So you got detention. You know, you want to know about the
yeah,
future. Here's how it goes.
yeah. Here's how it
Yeah,
goes. You know, you got everything you wish for, but
yeah,
sometimes when you get everything, you don't
yeah,
like it all.
yeah. JD, literally, Adam Warlock was like, he came out of the cocoon like, mummy. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
god, bro. All the focus on Rocket, and that's you know, I get it. James Gunn, he uses the furry animal to kind of like captivate people that way and aspects of family.
yeah,
He's good at that, but it's just like, oh, don't do that to iconic characters. Galaxy Memorial Park is a way to enjoy classic heroes and deep human drama. Absolutely, man. I'm inspired.
yep.
In fact, I'd love to talk to you offline about um, if I can add something to it. You know what I mean? A piece.
Right, right.
I do those metal prints.
We have the fourth volume. I haven't read it in a couple of years, but we haven't assigned any flashbacks yet for the fourth
Okay.
volume. Yeah, and that is where not all of the action takes place, but volume 4 we wrap up the current timeline
Okay.
story. So the main action, so to speak, without the flashbacks.
Yeah.
So yeah, we definitely would like to find a spot for you. Who's still there? Hello. Did we lose Rob?
Oh, my mic dropped out for some reason.
No. Gotcha. Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I would definitely be up for the challenge. Now I have a little more free time. Cut back on overtime from the
Mm-hmm.
crazy asylum that I work at, and fun
Right.
times. But yeah,
Yeah, and it's we always go into it with the flashback is just pretend like this is a comic book that's been around for 30 years, and you were the current artist on issues 125 through
wow,
145,
yeah,
and you put your own spin on the character and your own little tweaks on the costume, so nothing was like nitpicky, so you can just flow with what you feel good
okay,
about, and that's how we throw to people. There's not a whole lot of editorial in there where some of the character designs I have are not, they're cookie
yeah,
cutterish, just so you can purposely add your, like if you want to pull a Brian Hitch and add piping onto the costume, that like go for it, bro. Like it's all you during that
yeah,
time period.
okay,
So
yeah, yeah, definitely. I would look forward to it,
mhm,
and I'm still learning new skills and new effects and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm excited. Like I said,
yeah,
look forward to getting it this November. Galaxy Memorial Park,
yes,
Volume 1.
yes, yep. Fulfilling by Critical Blast,
Nice.
November 2025.
Let's see if we got any growth here. What the heck? Are we still on?
Yeah.
Oh, one. Oh my gosh.
There we
All
go.
right, here we go.
Yes.
All right, come on.
Yeah.
Any
Right. It's all right. It's a long
right,
campaign.
right.
This is the first campaign of 5
Oof.
campaigns. We have four volumes of this to do, and then the 5th campaign, I want to do a collected
Mm-hmm.
version of it, and have it colored.
Nice.
So yeah, and that's one of the main reasons we went with Critical Blast for number one for fulfillment and also
Okay.
publishing. So they've been doing a lot of those phone book size collections of old indie
Nice.
series. So
Okay. Volume 4 is
mhm,
a huge book, page number wise. So it's probably gonna break
yeah,
100, huh?
it's going to be big.
Nice.
Yeah. Because I want to say there's 13 chapters because we have an
Ooh.
epilogue. So I mean, just based on
Mm-hmm.
that, yeah. Because at the end and the epilogue, we have panels of like what these characters are currently doing
Okay,
now.
like a
Boom, boom, boom.
Galaxy Memorial Park Bible. Okay.
Yes, yes, yeah, yep. In a way to branch off. If you like this character, the
Mm-hmm.
Aquanaut, let us know, and we'll have the guy who drew the Aquanaut scene right there draw the dang book.
Nice.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, so yeah,
Yeah, I like how it's grounds for a lot of opportunity with it, and it really allows a lot of expansive ideas. Like you said, you guys aren't too heavy-handed on the editorial part, which I know is a big part of the mainstream. 13 is short, but 12 is big.
yeah,
Oof.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's big. Yeah, cool. Well, it's spoiler alert. I mean, we have an alien that's caused this destruction on the planet, so her people
Uh
might
oh.
show up, and then we have the raising of the
Mm.
dead that might happen. That whole concept of so I mean it's yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I'm excited for it, man. I feel the energy. I definitely feel the energy. Um,
cool.
and this is the you have just one cover, right?
Just one cover. It's a bare bones campaign. One cover. We have the two tiers. You can buy a single issue or you can buy multiple
Mm-hmm.
issues. And we just, I don't know, we want you to read the story and enjoy the story. We just didn't want a whole bunch of
Yeah, all
pomp and
yeah,
circumstance,
magnets,
Yeah.
stickers, trading card. That's a lot. Yeah.
It sounded like number one, more
Mm-hmm.
work and more
Yeah.
anxiety, so you're just kind of like, let's just leave it at a
Yeah.
comic book, and hope they
Yeah.
enjoy it. So,
Yeah. I really respect that because sure, if things are booming and you have time to do all that, cool. But
right,
starting the ground, going from the crawl phase to walking, it's definitely good to do what you can within your means to at least get it started.
right.
As
Yep.
someone once told me, shoot first and then adjust fire later. you know.
Right. Right.
Yep. So
Yeah.
well, I know it's early bird hours for you, and I'm
Right.
probably gonna take a nap before I do anything else.
Well, cool. Thanks for having me on, man. It's been fun. I've enjoyed this hanging
Heck
out.
yeah,
It's been
yeah,
nice.
absolutely. It's been an honor.
Mhm.
Thank you for you know being able to be available for this show and give me a chance to
Mhm.
promote your already on the way to completion campaign in less than what 4 days.
A week.
Yeah, barely
Yeah.
barely a week. Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. If we get three more backers, I think is what it adds up to, right? Three
yeah,
more backers at single issues, we could be
yeah,
funded.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and
Yeah.
then, like I said, once they come in November, that'll be a easy Christmas gift.
Yes.
I
Yes.
can just go ahead and I can go ahead and will you guys be bagging and boarding in them or
Critical Blast takes care of
okay,
all that.
cool.
So yeah, so once the campaign ends in August, the file will be sent in to the
Yeah.
printer. The books get shipped from the printer to Critical Blast. He will be bagging, boarding, and putting them all in
Okay.
Gemini's. And then once the campaign is
Mm-hmm.
over, so the book is $15,
Mm-hmm.
right? And once the campaign is over, the printer allows you one change within the 90 days. So we go from being a crowd-funded book at $15 to the campaign ends. It now gets taken over by Critical Blast
Oh,
Publishing. So there'll be a trade. The trade dressing on the cover will change, and Critical Blast will be
nice.
added. Let me pause on this
Mm-hmm.
1 second. Once the campaign's over, we print that first edition of this
Mm-hmm.
book. Okay, we only print for the campaign.
Okay.
Then that's all that gets shipped out. In the meantime, we make one change to the printer with the trade dressing, and then it goes into a second
Okay.
printing. Every book that's ordered after the campaign
Mm-hmm.
ends is a second edition, and it comes from Critical Blast
Okay.
Publishing. So, and once again, all those books get shipped to RJ, and he takes care of the whole
Nice.
process.
Okay. Yeah, that I know that's a stress reliever.
Yes. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Yes.
And
Yeah.
thank you, JD, for popping up. You and Levi make a awesome team.
Yeah. Jay's an
Yep.
awesome guy. My best friend.
Nice. It's always good to have, man. You know, that those kind of superpower team ups for the long run are inseparable.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up. For anybody that's watching
Cool.
currently or watching the replay, links in the chat and also the crawler at the bottom over at Fund My Comic, Galaxy Memorial Park. Thank you, Levi, and thank you, JD, and thank you, Shadowhawk, for joining as well. Y'all take care and
Very
have a
cool.
cool Saturday
All
morning.
right.
Major
Later.
city. In a place raised to honor Earth's past protectors, the world will again learn. Sometimes